Yeah!
It's time to abort your whole friggin' species.
Man, could you imagine being in the military, being sent out for a routine cleaning job, and then, no, the first thing that comes at you is freaking nuke 'em? You would be shitting in your pants for sure. How do you do, folks? Welcome to another Industry Influences, a series where we talk about all the big influencers in the video game industry. And because we're going to be covering Half-Life Opposing Force tomorrow, I figured it was time to talk about the original Half-Life. Released in 1998 and created by Valve Software. It's actually really funny to think of a time when Valve wasn't the pillar of the video game industry that it is today. Today, they basically own the digital distribution market on PC. But back in the day, they were just a bunch of first-timers who were talking a big game, but didn't really have any real games to hitch their horse to. That is until the original Half-Life came out, which was definitely a game changer when it released in 1994. And even now, Half-Life remains one of the single most influential video games of all time. And I say that despite the fact that I don't think the original Half-Life has particularly aged all that well. So the fact that I'm saying it was such a big influencer should tell you what a big deal it is. So you guys know how this works. We're going to list off 3 major ways that Half-Life has impacted the video game industry, for better or for worse. In regards to its most famous gameplay feature, I wouldn't say that Half-Life was necessarily a big revelation in regards to the gameplay of the first-person shooter, as a lot of people would have you believe. Its gameplay mechanics are very much in line with any other first-person shooter that was coming out at the time, like Doom, Duke Nukem, Quake, and all that stuff. And you could even argue that it does some things worse. However, that's not really what made Half-Life so special when it came out back in the day. Most video games at the time pretty much ran something along the lines of, say, Doom here, with level-to-level formulas, score counters, and all that stuff. Also not really trying to incorporate a story in any real capacity, and most of the time it just being context. Half-Life was the first game to change that. For starters, rather than having a level-to-level formula, Half-Life was the first game to incorporate what we call today a seamless narrative. Essentially, the start of the game is when Gordon Freeman rides into work on that tram in the opening of the game, and point B of the game is basically the ending. There are no level transitions, nothing along those lines for the entire game. You are Gordon Freeman making your way through the ordeal that's going on Black Mesa. Nothing like that had ever really been done at the time. The closest thing I can think of probably being System Shock, and even that, you could argue, had a level-to-level formula. But it was just a really big deal to see something like that happen. There just wasn't a game at the time that was able to immerse you in its world like Half-Life did. And even today, that still makes the game really special. Even though Half-Life is considered groundbreaking for its seamless narrative, I can't think of very many games that actually do a seamless narrative. And that's primarily because it's just so hard to do. You essentially have to design the game with the intention of having absolutely no load times, which is a lot harder than you think it would be. Even the original Half-Life, it still has very brief instances where the game has to stop and load for a bit. But yeah, the only examples I can think of that come to mind would be something like Dead Space 2, the Dead Space remake, and I'm sure some other games as well, but most other games, they use a lot of cutscenes, they use a level formula, lots of load times, in between level, story beats and everything. There are just very few games that are able to achieve the seamless narrative. And the fact that Half-Life was able to do it in 1998 with such primitive hardware really is a testament to how ahead of its time it was. Another area in which Half-Life broke new ground is in regards to its modding community. So, now, modding wasn't anything new when Half-Life came out. In fact, the modding scene for Doom was especially tremendous when it came out. However, what Valve ended up doing when they released the source code of Half-Life for the fans to play around with was that they knew they were going to go wild with it, and rather than just, focus on Half-Life 2 and just let the fans have their fun with the original Half-Life, they actually paid attention to what the fans were doing. And if a mod came along that showed a considerable amount of quality and ability on the part of the people who made it, Valve would actually contact them and sometimes bring them on staff to work on Half-Life 2. And sometimes they would find a mod that was of such a high quality that they would even endorse the game and release it, such as the case with Counter-Strike and eventually the Team Fortress series. This method of finding talent through the modding community was just a stroke of genius on their part, as it not only allowed them to find a lot of talents that you otherwise wouldn't see in the video game industry, but it gave people who otherwise wouldn't get a shot at the big time a chance to really strut them stuff on the world stage. So, and that still goes strong today because there are tons of great mods for the original Half-Life, and a lot of them still get turned into full releases. It sort of paved the way for Steam, which is still the best way for independent developers to release their games. Not just a Half-Life mod, but just video games in general. That's the beauty of digital distribution, in my opinion. The fact that it allows developers to circumvent the process of finding a publisher and release the games they want to, rather than have to build it around what people think would sell. And the last area which I think Half-Life has really influenced the industry is really that it's just one of the best pieces of video game preservation that I have ever seen. The original Half-Life has never seen an official remake outside of the fan-made Black Mesa, and the reason for that is Valve has made sure to keep up to date with Half-Life. So it's available on Steam for chump change. And in addition to that, they've made sure that they have teams working on it to make sure that as technology advances, it'll still run flawlessly. As the years have gone by, I have played the original Half-Life on 3 separate computers of varying degrees of technology, and the game has never once failed to run flawlessly. And that is due entirely to the efforts of both the fans as well as just Valve in general. And that goes for the expansion packs, Half-Life, basically anything that Valve has made, now that I think about it. It's something that I feel a lot of developers could really learn a lesson from, because even though Half-Life probably doesn't resonate with modern gamers like it did back in the day, it is still great that if people like me who are big into game design want to play the original Half-Life, we can play the original Half-Life. You can still go to Steam, just play a couple of bucks, and you can experience the game. Whether or not you enjoy it or anything like that, it's completely irrelevant. Just the fact that it exists in such a readily available state is a testament to how popular it is. So, yeah, Half-Life, even though I don't particularly care for it, it really has been a big influence on the industry. It still continues to be such a big influence on the industry. And while Valve doesn't really have a reason to make any more games of the series, I really don't think Half-Life 3 is ever going to get made. I'm surprised they even did Half-Life Alyx. But, if they ever come out with Half-Life 3, I will definitely give it a shot. But that's not what we're playing tomorrow. We are playing the first expansion pack, Half-Life Opposing Force, and I hope you guys will join me for that tomorrow at 8. See you then.